Welcome to E4 Electric live from Bangkok. I got a riddle for you guys. Do you like riddles? I love riddles. So answer me this. As far as electric car sales in America goes, Tesla is the king, and it's probably going to be a king for quite some time. But with all of the other choices of other electric cars on the market, quite good choices. Not if you ask actually Lucid CEO, which we'll talk about that in a second, but which one is the most selling electric car in America besides Tesla? And I'll give you two clues. One, last year, this brand sold zero electric cars in America. Zero. We counted, we had a recount, and when we still came out with zero. And secondly, the car that I'm talking about is not even made by this brand. It's actually made by their competitor, and they basically put their badge on it and sold it to you. But it looks like people are loving it. It actually was outsold by one more vehicle, and it looks like now in the last month it is number 4 because top 3 spots are taken by Tesla. So if you haven't guessed it yet, well, we're talking about, ready for this? Honda Prologue. That's right. Honda Prologue is the best-selling electric car in America besides Tesla. And look, if you look at it, it's all right. It looks pretty good. It doesn't look horrible. Doesn't look amazing. The specs are okay as well. Almost 300 miles, the longest range between all of the models. And it is made by Honda. Now, the price is a little higher than the competition. It's around $47,000, though it is qualified for the $7,500 tax credit, which is harder and harder to get, honestly. But with it, it's under $40,000. Now the charging rate is not great. It's okay, 155 kilowatts. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing else that kind of stands out about this car in any way, shape, or form. And yet, everybody likes it. I wouldn't say love it, but absolutely likes it. They sold more than Mustang Mach-E, which was still a little bit above the sales number for the Prologue in Q3. But now in the latest month, the latest numbers come in, and Prologue is still kicking ass. So it sells more than Ioniq 5, more than Ioniq 6, more than Mustang Mach-E, more than pretty much every kind of crossover in every electric car in America. Now, I got to tell you, I have mixed thoughts because obviously, listen, it's great to have competition. It's great to have choices. American buyers did not have this choice, last year, and now they do. Yet another electric vehicle on the road in America, and we need that. But at the same time, there are a couple of interesting things to mention. One, again, is why. I mean, the specs are not mind-blowing. The price is not exactly super affordable. Now, there's a couple of guesses here. And the biggest one that I have seen is that a lot of people still believe that it is the Japanese automakers that are most environmentally friendly. And the Prius, the Toyota Prius, which is not even the same as Honda, but the Toyota Prius has been looked at as the pioneer of green energy, and people still think that. So a lot of people, I'm assuming, have been waiting for a Honda or a Toyota or one of the Japanese cars to come up with an electric car they like. Now, it's a little odd because Nissan had their Leaf, granted not the best electric car out there, but it's been out there for a while. Toyota had the BZ4X also for almost 2 years now. But people, for some reason, really liked this one. So it is a little weird. But at the same time, remember how we all were saying that, oh, listen, this Honda and Toyota, if they don't start producing electric cars, they're going to go belly up, they're going to go bankrupt. And they were like, no, we're going to be okay. We're just going to concentrate on hybrids. Hybrids is the way to go. We'll catch up with you guys later. And guess what? It looks like they are. It looks like Honda. As a matter of fact, I feel like Honda is doing a little bit better than Nissan at this point because, Nissan has struggled with the Aria, which I think is a much better car than better looking for sure than Prologue, though doesn't really have that many amazing specs either. But at the end of the day, apparently, and this is not a good thing, obviously, but apparently, not buying into the electric car revolution and kind of putting brakes on it for a while, and then deciding to do it like 10 years later, apparently still not a big deal. Everybody goes like, yeah, no, we're still going to go ahead and buy it. And I know consumers will buy whatever makes sense for them. They are not specifically want to buy an electric car. They don't specifically want to save an environment. I think a lot of people were just waiting for their brand, which is Honda, for a lot of people to come up with an electric car. Now, they've already had one, which is Honda E, which was one of the most embarrassing electric cars I think ever made. And if you have been watching my shorts, I've found one when I was walking around Stockholm and made fun of it profusely. And I was just hoping that the owner wasn't going to come out and kick my ass for talking shit about his little Honda E. It's a good looking car. It's just the specs and the price of just awful. But it never made it to America. So this is essentially the first electric car, a real electric car from Honda. But as I mentioned it, Honda doesn't really make it. General Motors makes this car, but it looks like General Motors gave it to Honda. I mean, obviously, there's a deal there. Honda paid for it, but Honda fine-tuned it and turned it into a better car, which is like GM. Seriously? So yeah, so at the end of the day, Honda still has not made a real electric car on their own. They just essentially took someone else's. And GM hasn't been making great electric cars until very recently, I would say. So it was already a pretty odd choice for Honda to go with GM, but apparently they were able to take whatever was given to them or whatever they bought and licensed and make it a little better. And kudos to them for that. But I still don't quite understand why Honda could not manage to create their own essentially electric car from scratch. So that's where we're at with this. And listen, we've talked about this before, and I'm going to say this again. Being number 2 to Tesla, if you were like BYD over the last few years, where we were just almost there, and then they finally beat them in sales, it is nowhere close. I mean, a second place, whoever that is, right? Whether it's Ford or GM or Honda, they still sell 1/10 of what Tesla's selling, if that even. So it's still a very embarrassing number of electric cars that all of these brands are making. Now, with the new administration, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't expect electric cars to become more popular, during Trump administration. But at the same time, I feel like the training wheels are off. And so no matter what they do, whether the new EPA guy or Trump himself, no matter what they do, they won't really be that much of a negative effect on the sales. But these companies, including Honda, really need to step it up, because selling 10, 15, 20,000 units a month is still quite a pathetic number, especially if you compare it to Tesla and BYD and other brands that are actually and even NIO and XPeng, they make more cars. So it is what it is. But I thought this was actually quite interesting, because we kind of all said, well, Honda, if you're not going to make electric cars, you're probably going to die. And they're like, yeah, no, and we're still not going to make electric cars. We're just going to get someone else's, put our name on it, and boom, best-selling electric car in America besides Tesla. So I thought it was interesting.